Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to Tenure Talks, where we interview battle-tested procurement leaders that have the scars to prove it. We ask the same 5 questions every week, providing you with chewable bits of expertise. I'm Katie McEwen, the procurement girl, representing Tealbook, the trusted source for supplier data. Get up-to-date, trustworthy data at your fingertips to ensure your procurement processes are operating at its full potential. Check out our new ROI calculator, and the link will be in the comments. I'm so excited to introduce y'all to our rock star guest today, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining the show. Stephen, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on right now.
So Stephen Anderson, Director of Strategic Sourcing at Tropic. A little bit about me. I've always been in this space, supply chain procurement, from undergrad, multiple different companies, aerospace, medical, tech, automotive, and now here at Tropic. So I've seen a bit of everything in the procurement space, from direct materials to indirect services, indirect, the entire kind of gambit of the procurement industry, and really excited to continue that journey where I'm at now and move the whole procurement industry forward.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm really curious, what was the most painful sector of procurement that you worked in? Was it more the indirect side? Was it more direct? What kept you up at night a little bit more?
I would say the direct stuff was always a little more top of mind. You always had to be worried about those shipments arriving on time, the inventory. I've had a few different experience. Medical industry was very slow. So your decisions 6 months, 12 months ahead of time would come back to bite you later on. So there was a lot of slow, methodical decision making. I was also at Tesla, which was a very different environment as well, about the complete opposite, where everything needed to be just in time, immediately delivered. Some very different experiences over there, obviously, where decisions were being made on the fly, on demand, and it was always a wild ride, but we always got it done.
I mean, Elon Musk, it's Tesla. Like, how exciting. I can't even imagine how thrilling was that. I mean, you were setting the foundation to go to space. I mean, what an inspiration. That's so cool. So I want to ask you about your mentors and who really introduced you to the type of person that you want to be in business and within procurement. A lot of people don't have, the dream of going into procurement and sourcing their whole life. So I'm curious kind of how that came to be and who you give credit to for where you are right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people. A background on myself is I'm the youngest of 4 brothers. So negotiation was just how I thrived and survived in an environment that was, slightly hostile to the younger brother. You're not the strongest or fastest, so you had to find leverage where you could. Kind of watching my oldest brother, have his own business and how he built it up and really created a horizontal industry, kind of adding new businesses that were complementary. Watching that growth and that development, really put me on that path towards the engineering and business route. Going into Michigan State, I thought I was going to be an engineer. After several physics and advanced calc classes, I decided that was not the path that excited me most, and I really wanted to pivot back towards the business. And really throughout my career, I think I've had a series of mentors and what I might call anti-mentors. I think you learn just as much from the people that you have bad experiences with that you have good experiences. I think a lot of what I brought to the table as a leader and a manager also comes from the folks who I thought didn't do it well, and saying I'm going to do it differently and I'm going to take a different approach, or these are the things that I think worked and didn't work. I think throughout my career I've taken a balance of that. It's always, I think, easy to take the people who you look up to and say, hey, I want to do what they do. But I think it's also pretty important to take a look at the folks who you felt didn't do it the right way, and how can you adapt and create a model or a process that is going to prevent others from having the negative experiences you had.
Yeah. So can you share the worst mentor, the best example of the anti-mentor? Just teasing. I'm not going to make you do that. But that's amazing. That's I know. I didn't mean to scare you. No, but that's great. it's not necessarily the best mentor that's the most educated or that puts that much into you, but sometimes it's the one that makes mistakes that you get to learn from. I like
Yeah,
that.
I think it's been a real combination for me. And like I said, I've had really great mentors who've helped, guide me and kind of lead me onto this path of how I connect with my team and build my team and give them the room to grow and develop, but also, supporting them. And I think, through leaders at every organization I've been, I found a combination of both. Those people who helped kind of put me on my journey. You learn much from the ones who kind of push you into the deep end, for better or worse. You learn skills and tools that help you thrive, but also recognizing, the best way to teach someone to swim probably isn't dropping them into the deepest end of the pool as well, and kind of learning those balances.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be so extreme. You can find out your own style to try to
Yeah.
mitigate it. Yeah, that's really cool. I like that. So what do you think is like the game changer right now, especially with everything with COVID and, everything with Russia, and what's really changing the space right now?
Yeah, I mean, for the industry I'm in today, and especially I think over the last couple of years, I think procurement tech is really having its moment. I kind of make the joke that, sales tech has every tool imaginable to be successful. Gone, Chorus, Salesforce, Outreach. You can't even name them all. They have so many tools to help them achieve their goals. On the procurement end, we have an Excel spreadsheet that's 10 years old that gets updated over time and hopefully doesn't break on us. It is not a fair fight. We're trying to support large organizations with very minimal tooling. And a lot of the tooling that we've historically had has never been intended for procurement. It's intended for production, for logistics, for operations, for managing inventory. And it's always kind of been, hey, procurement, kind of, make do with the information that's relevant for you and try to be successful. And I think people are finally recognizing that there's so much opportunity to drive value within procurement. And if you enable them, if you give them the right tools and the training and skills, they can do it. And I think the other thing that I've really seen is, I think within tech procurement, is the skills and experience are finally starting to develop. I've had a pretty diverse background of roles, and looking at manufacturing and medical and other industries, there's hundreds of years of experience, quite frankly, of doing manufacturing production, doing medical production. The tech industry is not that old. So the level of actual experience in this industry is pretty minimal. And when you combine that with an industry that's constantly changing, I was like going back to aerospace, when I was, had some time at Boeing, nothing would change probably over 20 years. Some new planes would come out, but the overall industry isn't moving super quickly compared to tech, where you've got companies that are merging, falling apart, new companies are rising on a quarterly, yearly basis. The entire industry changes, the pricing models change, the entire dynamics change. You have major acquisitions like Salesforce acquiring Slack. That really changes the dynamic of the industry and the dynamics. And, I think it's a challenging aspect for tech procurement because you can't be complacent. You have to constantly be challenging yourself, following up with the market. So when things do happen and change in the market, folks who've been in the tech world are typically well equipped because we're used to this constant flux and change. It's nothing new to us. Where other industries, it's shocking. When you've got a supply chain that maybe routes through areas of Eastern Europe and it's been established for decades, what do you do right now? You've never had to deal with that type of change. And so those are some of the dynamics that I find exciting for my industry is people are starting to recognize tech and software procurement as different. There's a different approach. There isn't the inventory levels. There's no supply to these products. And how do we take a different mindset and approach in an industry that simply hasn't been given much attention for a long time?
It's so true. And procurement needs those tools like that salespeople have desperately, especially when you think about procurement operations and project management and just visibility. And yeah, that's a really good point, just to be able to have, some good procurement tech out there. The competition is growing. It's amazing to see how many new tech companies are coming up in the, eProc and e-sourcing space. So it's a challenge for tech companies to stay on top. And if they do become complacent and say, oh yeah, we had this great, revolutionary feature, somebody else is working on making it better, so.
Exactly. And I think, it's really great to see that people are recognizing the value procurement can drive now that it is being tech enabled. I think historically folks have said, hey, procurement's just an obstacle. It's just the people who are slowing things down. And then once you start to enable procurement with the same technology and resources that other groups and organizations have had, people kind of have this eye-opening moment of, wow, there's so much potential. There's so much value you can do. When you've got procurement enabled and driving value on marketing contracts, that's a marketing person who doesn't need to focus on something that they're not good at, and they can focus on their true goals where they can be most effective and efficient. The thing that always used to drive me crazy is, working with engineers and saying, do you really want to negotiate this contract? Like, is this what you enjoy? And they go, no, I hate it. And I just be like, well, let me handle it for you. Like, take that off your plate so you can be, the best engineer, develop these new systems, code, do the things that you are best at. And I'll do the things that I'm best at to help give you, your time back.
Exactly. So you can grow in that specific role and be more strategic and make better decisions.
Yeah, it's an ROI generation for the company. I think people think of it as just, oh, well, do we save money? It's really, let's enable the organization to let each person be most effective in what they do best. And they're not going to be most effective. Someone who's not, understanding of the procurement space or an industry or the dynamics of contracting, it's not their forte. Don't bog them down with it. So for the companies out there, let procurement help you. That's what we're here for.
Exactly. Don't be afraid of us. We're here to help. Yeah, I love that. So what's something we don't know about you, Stephen? You've been around for a while in this space. I'm sure, procurement sourcing take up a lot of your time, but what else don't we know about you?
Really passionate scuba diver. I've done it all over the world. Absolutely love scuba diving. I think it's a good balance of very kind of deliberate and thoughtful action and motion. When you're 100 feet below the surface, you have to be very careful about your decision making and what you do next, mindful of how much air you have left in your surroundings. And I've always just found that exciting. It's a combination of very a calming presence of kind of just being there and being at the bottom of a reef and seeing all this life around you, while at the same time potentially being minutes away from death at any given moment. So this balance of both kind of like adrenaline and thrill, but also just this really relaxing, comforting, where you just kind of absorb nature. It's not very often you can go out even walking through the woods and not hear an airplane or someone on a phone or all this other activity. But there's just something kind of very natural about being underwater and just seeing the world around you in a very quiet kind of captured environment.
Yeah, it's like you're literally immersing yourself in the experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't hear anything. You can't take your cell phone down there. You can't hear notifications.
Yeah, you're really in the moment. It's all your attention is focused on what's going around you and what your next actions are going to be minute to minute. I just find it really thrilling.
Yeah. Do you feel your adrenaline pushing the whole time, or did you kind of get used to it?
Yeah, you learn to kind of cope with it. I mean, I'll say I've had a handful of close calls, especially when you get multiple brothers scuba diving down. We like to pull pranks on each other. But you kind of learn to, as things are going wrong, to keep your cool. And probably that comes from my experience in the procurement world. When everything's falling apart, still keeping your cool, still kind of assessing the situation and being, very mindful of your next actions.
Yeah. I'm sure you get used to that adrenaline level being high, right? You're just used to running on that extra energy. That's really cool. Any sharks or anything scary?
Yeah. Sharks, eels. I think some of the largest ones we saw were sturgeon, where you're with hundreds of them. That was pretty exciting. Lots of sea turtles. So yeah, I've had a few shipwrecks. I love it all.
Wow. So best location you scuba'd or dove? I don't know how you say
it was actually in Michigan, where I'm from. But we knew some guys who were actually bringing a tugboat out of the water. And it was around 120 feet below the surface. And we got to actually work with them as they were preparing to actually float the tugboat out.
Gosh, that is so cool.
So there was the Great Barrier Reef and other things were really fun too, but that was a really unique experience knowing that, only a handful of people were ever going to experience that. Once the tugboat was up, it's gone forever. So kind of that like very unique experience that, there's 10 of us who are the only ones in the world who will ever experience that.
That's so cool. And to go that far deep. Oh, that's so cool. So
It's
what's,
very boring, but
yeah. What's one thing you wish somebody would have told you early in your career that maybe didn't? Maybe a piece of advice that.
I think to always push to learn. I think always trying to ask more questions and understanding what's going on. I think, my background of dabbling in engineering and with procurement kind of always gave me a more inquisitive nature. And throughout, the various roles I've had, it was, sitting down with engineers and understanding the products. And, at one point, especially when I was at Tesla, we had our own kind of, pit of procurement folks, and I just moved. And, for months as we prepared to launch, I just sat with my engineers. And, for me, it was, if I want to understand the product that I'm buying and what we're doing and how it's produced, I need to be with the people who understand it best. And that's kind of the unique nature of procurement sometimes is we're both a team and a lone wolf. You can be on a team of 10 other people, but if you're all buying another commodity, you still much feel like a lone wolf. So to augment that for me, it was like, well, then, if, my colleagues don't have this experience in the specific field, I want to go to the people who do and learn from them and work with them. And, I think it's a really valuable lesson for anyone earlier in their career. When you're buying a certain commodity or, working on a particular field, go to the experts, right? And sit with them and work with them and use that knowledge. It's going to carry you on for your career. And for me, even if it's, never needing that knowledge on a specific, automotive part ever again, it was just the approach and the dynamics and how I could quickly understand, that particular commodity and learn the right skill sets of how do you learn a commodity quickly? How do you learn a new approach quickly? And then continue to take that. Obviously, I've hopped around through quite a different set of commodities throughout my career. So, for me, it's been helpful to understand, all these different dynamics and, building that right kind of mindset of how to learn something quickly and apply it to my knowledge. I think it's been a really valuable skill.
Yeah, go to the experts, go to people that know, like Procurement Foundry. Awesome. Well, this was so much fun. It was great getting to know you. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone who tuned in today. If you want to learn more about Steven or Tropic, look him up on LinkedIn. Give him a connection request and find out more. Thank you all so much. Go out there and have a very blessed weekend.